Well, my name is Mark Moffett, and I'm an ecologist who is now looking at the life and death of societies across species and in humans right up to the present day. And that resulted in a book that came out 2 years ago that addresses questions like when humans would have evolved societies, whether we need societies like nations or could dispense with them, all kinds of things that would make for intriguing lightning talks, I think. But I decided to talk today about something I wrote about last year in Skeptic's magazine. And it's an elaboration of a story I had in the LA Times the year before. And basically my message here distills down to a comparison of these two sentences. Animals are like people and people are like animals. Those sentences look very similar, but in fact, our minds process them very differently, and they have wildly different consequences. So at issue here is our propensity to put different human groups into a hierarchy, from the exalted us right down to people at the low end. For Europeans, it's often the Romani or Gypsies, who I show here. And we treat those groups in our heads as natural things. They have an essence. We see ethnicities, races, and society members as if they were species. So an elephant has tusks and a trunk. Different human groups have different ways of dressing, different gestures, different languages, and so forth. And even infants, before they can speak, pick up on their own race and ethnicity and respond preferably to those of that race or ethnicity, or their caretaker's race or ethnicity. And children soon come to rank animals as beneath them. And indeed, the hierarchy I showed you before reflects that. Animals are part of the same ranking system in our brains, right down to the lowest vermin, the disgusting cockroach. So let's look at those sentences again. People are like animals. Let's start there. You've probably heard that sentence. It's been used a lot through history right up to today. And what happens when that's a point of view is put forward is it drops the status of already denigrated peoples down to the animal level. So this is a technique that's been used a lot. The Nazis used it in the representations of the Jews and the Romani as vermin. Now, the other point of view, animals are like us, you hear much less about, but it's a very intriguing one because it actually raises up animals to our level. But it does something even more amazing. The unexpected consequence is that the animals carry different human groups up with them. Maligned human groups are seen as worth our moral attention now. And that was shown with research by psychologists at Brock University, who gave people an essay to read about how animals are like humans. And after they read the essay, they were asked about immigrants. And it turns out the people who read that essay thought much more highly of immigrants after they read it. Even extreme bigots thought well of immigrants after reading an essay that didn't even mention immigrants. The essay didn't mention human groups. It was simply about animals. The unfortunate thing here is those people return to a social environment where these negative views are the norm and the effect fades away. So how can we retain this positive effect? Well, it's difficult, I think, in our society because the West sees themselves, we see ourselves as apart from nature, apart from it, separate from it, rather than as a part of nature. And in my article I mentioned, I discuss an island that we've worked in, Socotra, has retained its extreme biodiversity after being occupied for 1,000 years by tribes that adopt what amounts to a more positive attitude about nature. So you can read that as an article if you like. The good news is that animals indeed are like humans. We're finding this out all the time. And what we get in the news, research results appearing constantly showing, for example, Irene Pepperberg's work on parrots and languages. Animals are self-aware, they can show emotions, they feel pain, they solve problems, and have cultures. And I think social advocacy groups would be well served to promote this animals are like people perspective. So here's a billboard that says nothing overtly political, And yet you're just getting a memorable fact, but the message still can shift people's point of view about both animals and other human beings. So thank you very much. And I really look forward to talking about this and maybe some of the groups after this. Thanks.